At the moment he crossed the Rubicon, Julius Caesar stared at the turbulent river, and the whisper "the die is cast" was not only the decision of a military commander, but also the turning point of the entire Roman Republic's fate. This man, born into nobility but tempered by hardships, rewrote Rome's history with sword and pen. He conquered Gaul, crossed the Rhine and Britain, pushing Rome's territory to its peak. He implemented reforms, resolved the debt crisis, allowing both commoners and soldiers to feel the dawn of a new era. He recorded military exploits with the concise words of Gallic wars, and also adorned his legend with the Egyptian charm of his lover Cleopatra. From the political maneuvering in the Senate to the decisive battle on the plains of Pharsalus, from the supreme power of perpetual dictator to the pools of blood from his assassination on the Ides of March, Caesar's life was like a meteor, cutting a dazzling and scorching path through the Mediterranean world of the second century BC, ultimately extinguishing the last glimmers of the Republic, and paving the way for the birth of the Roman Empire. Born in BC, into the Julian clan, a once prominent noble family that had declined somewhat by then, Caesar's childhood coincided with the most turbulent period of the Roman Republic. The civil war between Marius and Sulla torn the city-state, and Sulla's dictatorship intensified the contradictions between nobles and commoners. At Chichen, Caesar was elected as a priest of Jupiter, an honorary position that required purity, but also drew him into the entanglement of religion and politics at an early age. When Sulla came to power, he included Caesar in the persecution list due to his kinship with Marius. The young Caesar was forced to flee Rome and serve in the legions in Asia Minor, earning the civic crown, the highest honor for a Roman soldier, woven from oak leaves, symbolizing the merit of saving compatriots through his courage. After Sulla's death, Caesar returned to Rome, starting as a lawyer and rising to prominence with his exceptional oratorical talent. His voice was resonant, his gestures powerful, and he often quoted Greek philosophy in his speeches, impressing both commoners and nobles. To accumulate political capital, Caesar went heavily into debt. He renovated the Forum, hosted grand gladiatorial shows, and even provided free grain to commoners. These expenses brought him to the brink of bankruptcy, but also earned him the reputation of friend of the people. During his tenure in Spain, he once wept at the sight of a statue of Alexander the Great. "He had conquered the world at my age, while I have accomplished nothing." This hunger for glory became the driving force behind his later expansions. At Etched, Caesar formed the first triumvirate with Pompey and Crassus, a secret political alliance that effectively controlled Rome's power and laid the foundation for his future rise. In BC, Caesar became governor of Gaul, a region regarded by Romans as barbarian land that became the stage for his military genius. Over 8 years of Gallic wars, he planted Rome's standards across the vast lands from the Rhine to the English Channel, writing classic chapters in military history. The conquest of the Helvetii was Caesar's first major victory. When this nomadic people tried to migrate through Roman territory, Caesar raised an army in just 6 days and defeated them at the Battle of Bibracte, forcing them back to their homeland. He then boldly crossed the Rhine, launching raids on Germanic tribes, and using pontoon bridge technology to build a passage over the swift river, an unprecedented military engineering feat that terrified the barbarian tribes. In Wushawu and Wushasi BC, Caesar crossed the English Channel twice. Though he failed to establish permanent rule, he brought Rome's reputation to Britain, becoming the first Roman commander to set foot on the island. The most thrilling episode of the Gallic Wars was the Siege of Alesia. In Wushar BC, Vercingetorix led, a Gallic tribal uprising, besieging Caesar's legions in a fortress. Caesar employed a double-wall tactic: inner walls to defend against breakout attempts, outer walls to resist relief forces, ultimately forcing Vercingetorix to surrender. As the Gallic leader, dressed in magnificent armor, surrendered to Caesar, the cheers of the Roman legions echoed through the valleys. In Gallic wars, Caesar merely wrote, "He was taken to Rome for Caesar's triumph," showing the victor's restraint and dignity. 8 years of campaigning brought Gaul under Roman rule, adding 7 new cities to the Republic, and immense wealth and slaves. More importantly, he forged an army loyal only to himself. The soldiers of the 10th Legion were willing to follow him anywhere, even defying Senate orders. This personalized military force became the key to shaking the Republic's foundations. In January 60 BC, the Senate, pushed by Pompey, ordered Caesar to disband his army and return to Rome to face trial, standing on the banks of the Rubicon. With his legions on one side and Rome's sacred territory on the other by law, a serving commander leading troops across this river was guilty of treason. Caesar stared silently before urging his horse forward. The declaration Alia Iacta Est, the die is cast, opened the civil war. Initially Pompey and senatorial nobles held Rome itself. But Caesar marched south with June and speed, and cities surrendered along the way. When he entered Rome, Pompey had fled to Greece with Senate members. Caesar left Mark Antony to govern the city and pursued. The Battle of Pharsalus in Sishiba BC was decisive. Caesar defeated Pompey's Sishiwu troops with Arshar men, using flexible cavalry tactics to shatter Pompey's invincibility myth. Fleeing to Egypt, Pompey was killed by the Ptolemaic dynasty, and his head was presented to Caesar, who reportedly wept at the sight of his former Alice head. In Egypt, Caesar met Archie-year-old Cleopatra VII. Egyptian queen, vying for the throne, had herself smuggled into Caesar's camp, wrapped in a carpet, and they quickly fell in love. Caesar helped her defeat her brother Ptolemy XIII, making her sole ruler of Egypt, and even had a son with her, Caesarion. This relationship, full of romance, complicated Rome-Egypt relations, and sowed seeds for later conflicts between Antony and Octavian. In the final years of the Civil War, Caesar pacificated Pompey's remnants in North Africa, and rebellions in Spain, returning to Rome in Sishiwu BC, to be named perpetual dictator by the Senate. He wore purple robes, a gold crown, and his residence was modeled after temples, all alarming conservative Republicans, who saw Caesar moving toward kingship, a title hated by Romans since the overthrow of the Tarquin dynasty.